welcome everyone. Welcome Alex.
Thank you. Thanks for coming. Thanks for coming.
So we haven't planned. It's casual talk. If you want to jump in with questions, feel free. We haven't planned anything. There's no rehearsal or questions. We're just gonna have a conversation with Alex, which I often do, and I really enjoy our conversations. I learn a lot about the way he thinks, the way he creates, and the way he sees the world. So I hope we're gonna just bring a little bit of that and tell more about this amazing journey that he did. For those who are not familiar with the project we're showing here, Alex left Bangkok 3 weeks ago on his bicycle, on that bicycle, and cycled from Bangkok to Penang and painted these 16 paintings on display here along the way. So it's a inspiring journey, amazing trip, and I'm gonna let Alex to say a couple of words before we carry on.
About the trip?
In general, just introduce yourself and.
Okay, actually I live in Bangkok, and maybe let's say how and why I'm cycling here.
Yeah.
Sorry, last night we spent party here.
We had a long weekend. We had a long.
My wife a little bit. Yeah. Okay, I'm here 10 years ago, 2015 for the group show and painting in Penang. And yeah, that's why we know Ernest at the first time, and we keep connected after that. And I invite Ernest to Bangkok for my show. Back and forth. Yeah. Chiang Mai, Bangkok,
Khao Lak.
Khao Lak.
Oh my God.
He traveling to Bangkok many times and said, "Hey Alex, come to Penang, making a show." Said, "Yeah, we love Penang. My wife, my family love Penang. We love the vibe of the island. Like really own texture. Like it feels like Penang have a texture of the city." And then okay, we have a long art week in Penang, and then for me, I think I really want to making exhibition in Southeast Asian country to make it the art scene in South Asian more stronger and connect more friends. I'm traveling a lot in the last 10 years. Flying everywhere, and USA, Europe, like far away. And every time when I'm traveling, I'm always have a funny idea. So let's say one day I'm flying to California. We stay in Palm Springs with my family, and I'm look at the mountain, dry mountain. It's very different where I came from, and I'm like, if I stuck here in Palm Springs, like let's say the satellite disappear, we don't have the airplane, how are we gonna get home? So, I look at the map. Alaska, connect to Russia. Need to take the boat. I don't know, it's a long way.
Yeah.
So how do I get back to my family? So, and make me think about now people traveling all the time. Like people fly to Penang from Bangkok, easy. And Ernest asked me to do a show here. I have an idea. I want to travel by land. Just keep going slow. And think about how people traveling back in the day, many years ago, 100 years ago, people will walk or ride on the horses, or even boat, elephant, they ride elephant, whatever. So it made me want traveling by land, by bicycle, and painting along the way. Because I'm love cycling. I'm cycling for 15 years, and I have 18 bike at home. So I'm go crazy about bicycle, and you said we need to come to residency in Penang, and for me, okay, if I need to do residency program, why I'm not make the road at the studio? So everything in my mind is okay. Start to cycling, working on the road. It's so many reasons. I love landscape painting. This show is the third show of landscape project. I did one show in Chiang Mai recently Khao Lak, then Penang. But Bangkok to Penang is longest that I do, 14 days, 1,200 kilometer. And yeah, I try to like collect all the landscape at the memory, and traveling like gets like slowly experiences on the way.
I think that's a very good point. Nowadays people are traveling like for destination is a little bit like teleporting from point A to point B, and you just instantly change your environment. People forget to travel for the journey and experience. And I feel like then visiting Alex's show in Khao Lak, I had that feeling. It was his show in a small town, beach town in Thailand, but it was not in a gallery. It was in a surfboard factory. It was in local shops. It was all along across the town. He had 4 different venues. He had 4 different venues where he displayed his work, and that sort of felt like a bit of the journey as well. He didn't treat his show as a one-spot final objective. Oh, I'll do a show now, and this is where my project ends. It was sort of just experiencing the process of creating art and showing it to people. So that sort of was something that inspired me to invite him over to Georgetown, because I think that energy in Georgetown is very well received and amplified. So
yeah, it's about connected with myself and people, and myself with nature. Yeah, and also myself to myself. When you're cycling all day long, like the road is really, it's like, oh, it's a long road. So you see like, oh, it's like, keep going, slow. Okay, we're not gonna get there soon. Don't think much about the destination. I try to enjoy the moment, or like on the way.
So to give a bit of idea of the logistics of entire project, Alex had a friend who cycled alongside with him. He's currently in Hong Kong. He couldn't attend this weekend. And 2 friends driving alongside in the car for safety and help out with equipment. But because I sort of helped to plan the project, so I was very worried about how it's gonna unfold logistically. Do we book stops? Do we book accommodation? Do we plan his trip? How does it work? And he's like, no, we're just gonna leave tomorrow and see how it goes. And that spontaneous traveling, he just pushed himself to cycle as far as he could that day, which on average was like 80 to 100 kilometers. And anything interesting he would stop to paint, and then just Google around for accommodation nearby. So it's as he said, like, which I really loved. As he explained it, like, a lot of people are worried for him, because I was worried sick, his wife was worried, his daughter, everyone was worried about him. It's a big trip. It's a long trip on the road on a bicycle, but he treated it like, as he said, like, oh, I just left from Bangkok to visit my friend, so he just took a bike to his friend's house. It's just that his friend's house is very, very far away.
I don't tell my mom. She still don't know I'm cycling. I say, I'm going to Penang. I'm going to Penang making a show, but I don't tell her I'm cycling here. I don't want to make her worry about me. She's like, don't ride the bike, danger. But I try to go on a small road as much as I can. So Bangkok to Penang on the east coast of Thailand, they have small road along the beach. So I keep going small road along the beach. Nice and chill, really quiet road. It's not. I don't think it's dangerous for me. You just keep going slow. It's no car. And big road, be careful a little bit. But I don't want to be in the big road for so long. I try to escape to the small road. So it takes longer, but it's more chill.
So with this, I sort of maybe want to dive in a little bit about Alex's intention in his paintings. He's obviously famous for his cute little character that he puts on the walls and in his artwork and in sculptures for past 16 years, since 2009 that he created this character. But what's inspiring for me as an artist, he always has an intention in his work. He always talks, it seems very sort of easy and light in the first glance, but when you look deeper into his work, you sort of see a bit more of topics that he's trying to bring up. So So I think for this show, the best reflection of that is the title of the exhibition, Faded Landscapes. So he sort of talks about the temporality of the landscapes that he saw along the way, the fact that they're not there forever. And he says, like, okay, it's been 10 years since last show in Penang. Maybe 10 years, in 10 years he'll cycle again, and visiting those spaces those landscapes that he saw, they might not look the same in 10 years. So I really like that approach of, a conscious choice of locations and the subject that he chooses, in this very classical medium of landscape that feels very, something that a lot of hobby artists choose to paint, something that is approached very casually. I feel like Alex always has a bit of a deeper edge to his work. I don't know if you want to talk about a couple of locations you saw along the way in Thailand.
Yeah, but every day I try to move 100 kilometers per day. And I look at the map, roughly. So some painting you see on the show, some area really have some problem with political issue. It's like one painting in the first one on this wall, in Chumpon area. So the government gonna make land bridge project. So they want to cut through the canal from, Andaman Sea to Thai Sea. So for the big ship to cross the land. And so the big ship don't need to come to Singapore. So, they cut through the sea, and so that land gonna be gone if they make that project happen. So that for me, I want to go see, the landscape, and look, keep on the painting. As an artist, one thing I can do, keep the memory. And another painting in Janat district, in Songkhla. They want to make a big port. So that area they're gonna be gone. I mean the fisherman local village. I think this village they have special trick to listen the nature. The fisherman know how to listen the small fish underwater. They call dulam technique. Yes. I used to they have a nature camp for dulam trick back in the day, and I want to take my daughter for that trick, but something happened, like I think pandemic that time, and we cannot make the trip happen. So I know the area a little bit, like Jannah, they have dulam, people jump to the water, open the eye, listen to fish, and then they follow, they know how many fish under the sea, and they can catch the fish, and they throw away the small one. That's how they make a circle of, how you call that? Circle of environment? Yeah. And then they have a protest in Bangkok. Jannat people went to Bangkok to protest the government. They don't want a big project in the area. And I went there in the protest with them to paint graffiti, to speak out with the community, with the local community. And then that's why it made me want to come to Jannat. So in the trip, one spot I need to come, Jannat, and paint the landscape there. So when I end up there, it's like, oh yeah, it's really quiet. And I know everything can be changed in the future, so I can spend there, look everything, paint it, and then, it feels really, really special. I don't know, I just sit under the tree and look, spend time. Also my buddy, he sit there with me and he's like, oh Alex, I don't know why I want to sit here and don't think anything. Be a dumb all day. Just sit there just like that all day. I was like, oh yeah man, I feel the same, but we need to move. And then I want to lay down. And it's like, I try to lay down, and then my hands step on the glass. Ooh, like breaking glass everywhere. So I keep, and I bring it, that one.
The piece of glass at the
See
exhibition
the
there.
glass on the wall.
And it's also in one of the paintings.
Yeah, I almost hit cut my hand, and it's like, all right, the glass, like, people should break it everywhere. And then I found the abandoned wall near the spot, and then we paint you can see that in the video, we paint big wall with the glass, and I bring it here and paint on a painting to represent what's going on at the spot that we paint.
And that's where I draw a lot of parallels with Penang, with our island, sort of similar to Bangkok and situation in Thailand. We also I don't know how many of you are Penang guides, and I'm sure Penang guides are aware of the situation, visitors maybe not, but we had multiple protests of fishermen and actually uniting with artists as well against the reclaimed islands that been popping up around Penang. It's really damaging ecosystem. It's damaging the fishermen's livelihood as well, and changing our landscape very rapidly for economical reasons. But as from we see from examples like Forest City, JB and stuff, the economical motivation does not necessarily guarantee the success of the project, and we sacrifice so much of resources, so much of landscape that we have for something that might be, a gamble. So yeah, we had a lot of that in Georgetown, and I think that's how this project sort of ties it in very beautifully with the stories that Alex has to bring and that people in Penang are going through right now too.
Yeah, I think landscape is one thing like as an artist, landscape is simple. I used to paint landscape when we are art student.
I want to talk more about that. Like I rarely hear Alex sharing that, and because we both have very similar background. We grew up on opposite sides of the world. He went to the art school, I went to the art school. We sort of been taught similar techniques in art school. We are both from very classical academic schools, and what they teach you in the classic schools in painting, and especially in oil painting, is Impressionism.
Yeah,
and this is what I loved when I was a student, and Alex told me a lot about his background as well, so there was a lot that I could relate. But I want you to talk more about about your school, about your early job with Impressionist paintings, and how you sort of choose to close the cycle after so many years of your career, going back to that with a fresh intention, a fresh meaning to it, but going back to your roots, to your practice, and to the medium that you love. Yeah.
But our students always study by landscape, portrait, still life. Like one subject is landscape. I think back in the day in the university, I think it's a really good time you hanging out with your friend in the classroom, and we're traveling to the location and we paint together. And we, like, oh, what you do? Like, oh, this guy paint, our friend painting. And for me, landscape painting is not just the study. After that, I'm studying Impressionist art. Like you can see how they start in Europe, like France. Back in the day, like, and the Monet painting, and make me fall in love with Impressionists. Like, wow, it's so cool, and I want to be Impressionist artist when I'm a student. So not only in the classroom, when I'm traveling somewhere, I always bring paint and canvas with me everywhere I go, painting everywhere I go. And yeah, and I'm start painting, let's say, graffiti and street art when I studied year 3 in the university, and then push me to another world, painting on the canvas and painting on the wall. And it's like, oh wow, I'm so excited for new technique with the spray paint, and make me to, like, painting everywhere, every weekend, going out to paint wall with my friend. So I step out from the, like classic technique for a bit. Just enjoying painting graffiti, like the culture different. But after 20 years, painting wall, and I want to put myself back to the basic again. I come back to paint landscape when I'm traveling again, and then I can see how similar with Impressionist and street art. Like back in the day when street art. When Impressionists started, people not appreciate it very much because they think it's not a good art, not perfect art. Art should be support the loyal family or the religion. But Impressionists just break everything. They paint like prostitute, they paint like landscape, like daily life. And for me, same as street art. When I start painting wall, 22 years ago, and people don't understand me too. It's like there are a lot of questions when I'm painting walls. Like, hey, some people are like, get out of here, get out of here. I was like, go do it, And some people should ask me a lot of questions like, why you paint wall? For nothing. Or even my friend in the classroom, it's like, Alex, I need to talk to you. It's like, why you spend time to paint wall outside for nothing? Why you don't focus for your work in the studio? Like, you understand me, man. You don't know. It's fun.
Yeah.
You hang out with your friend. My friend painting wall is so fun. Yeah, and I can see how similar with two different, street art and
There's a lot of parallels to it because both street artists and impressionists, they kind of like they do not always, but they do not really need a studio. Monet never had a studio. He had a garden, and similar to street artists, they just need a couch to sketch on, and they're ready to go. And I think it's we all are sort of children of the circumstances. Impressionism started because the paint tube was invented, and so artists could carry the paint around. They didn't need it to keep it on the palette all the time, so they could carry the paint, not in the jug but in a tube. And after invention of a spray can, less than 50 years over, we have this entire movement. So what do you know? Maybe if Monet was living now, he would be a street artist. Yeah. But we don't know what's going to be next. I imagine the whole AI situation is going to be a next spray can. We're going to start seeing a lot of weird art in the next couple of decades.
Yeah, and start painting. I used to do the show in 2016 at Bangkok City Gallery. So I'm painting landscape with Monet painting, like water lily.
Oh yeah, I remember the show.
Yeah, back in 2016. We have a book here, the green one.
Yeah, the green little book. Feel free to browse later.
I think after that show, it made me, coming back to classical painting with oil on canvas. And
so, mentioning that show, maybe we can pivot a little bit to talk about your career in general. You mentioned City Gallery, who are here this weekend. And they represent Alex in Thailand, and they came here. They're co-curating the show as well, so we are very happy to have them over. And I found this long friendship with City Gallery, like really benefiting the gallery, and you like help amplify each other. So I feel beautiful think about Alex and his career. He has an energy that attracts correct people. He doesn't have colleagues. He has friends that he works with. His gallery is his friends. His other artists is his friends. Collaborators are his friends. But the astonishing thing is the sort of his nuclear career that he managed to build in Thailand. And he mentioned earlier a little bit, he wants to do shows in Southeast Asia to elevate the scene, and he really did. Alex sort of bringing entire, not just Thailand, he's bringing entire region up with his career. So maybe you want to talk a little bit about City, about Manny, about people around you, your crew that you float with.
City there, look down and up.
Thank you very much for being here.
Yeah. I don't know.
Just say when you guys met, what was your first show, your experience with, trusting someone to carry on your work after it's complete,
I think I'm just lucky, to meet friends and support me. But with Look Down and Up, we friends for so long. Up used to like film the skateboard, also film graffiti. He used to film everyone painting on the wall, and one day he said, up and looked down and said, I want to open a gallery. That's it. And then one day, he make it happen. And then we're working together after that. And I think Up and Look Tan pushed me a lot too. You know, sometimes I have an idea like Khao Lak, for example.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, I want to make the show in Khao Lak in a small town. Oh, really, Alex? Okay. And she fly over to Khao Lak to check the spot, you know, to research everything in Khao Lak, and then that really helped me. It's like everything I want to do is like, let's go, man, do. But for me, and when I work right now, I want to having fun too, you know, not just work. And I think one thing, having fun is more important. and then you create work, darling, you know.
So, talking of having fun and Khao Lak show, like the fun story that I have in my experience there, every show for every artist is always a last minute nightmare stress. It's bliss as well, we really enjoy it, but like for me, the ADHD person that I am, who procrastinates everything to last minute always, it's the last couple of days I will be like in the gallery, hanging work, touching up, signing work till like right until the doors are open, right? And so we were there in Khao Lak for Alex's show, and the opening of the show was in that day, that afternoon. We wake up in the morning at about 7 or 8 a.m. and Alex goes, "Let's go surfing." And we just go surf for 4 hours on his opening day. And I thought, you know, that the attitude, the level of trust with his crew and the gallery is really, really inspiring, you know, to have solid people around you who, because his work is done, he finished the painting, he just needs to show up later, you know. So that was very, very inspiring, you know, for myself as an artist, just personally.
Because I can trust my crew, you know.
Yeah, to surf with Alex on an opening day, yeah, it was quite amazing experience. Really changed the way I think about exhibitions in general.
Really fun crew, really fun show in Khao Lak. Also here too. Also in Penang. Yeah, and we're so happy for the collection that I did along the way, because everything, I don't know what I'm gonna do on the way. I don't know what I'm gonna see. So it's for me, it's so new, you know, really new every day. Actually, I cannot sleep well for 2 weeks, like 14 days, because my brain keep thinking, like in the past, you know, in the past day, or what I see today, or the big truck passed me really bad. Oh shit, and oh, what I gonna do tomorrow? Where I gonna see? How long I gonna ride? So maybe what, you know, my brain working too much. Plan. And yeah, it's okay, not sleep well, it's okay.
So that being said, you know, for 2 weeks we're sitting here at the studio, preparing for the show, preparing for setup, writing press releases and everything, and waiting for Alex, worried sick. I had no idea what condition he's gonna arrive in, because it's 2 weeks on the road. You know, is he gonna go straight to bed, or do we bring him to hospital? Is he gonna? Do we need to feed him? Is his legs gonna work or not? And we hear on the last day, you know, it's getting late. It's late afternoon, and Alex still not here. We haven't had update for like a couple of hours, and I'm like, Alex, where are you? And he sends me a picture from Butterworth of him painting a landscape. They reached too early, so he stopped for another painting before they take the ferry to the island. And I'm like, okay, he's good. Then he showed up. I was so tired, just waiting the whole day and being worried. And he was like, "Hey, Ernest, how you doing?" And I'm like, "How do you have more energy than I?"
Open the door. Hello. Anyone here?
After 2 weeks on the road.
I'm tired, man. Actually, I'm tired. Yeah.
He was very tired, day. But he has a positive outlook to what he does. It's not a stress. It's not a mission for him. It's a game. It's a game, I think.
Because you're not gonna ride a bike every day like this, you know. Yeah. And why I need to be like, oh, you know. Yeah. So it's a chance to having fun, painting on the way. Also, my friend too. After painting at the mainland, the last one, and we have like 12 kilometers more to land on the studio. And I asked my friend, "Hey, you jump on the car, or you gonna ride?" let's go, man. Let's ride away. It's like, okay, go. It's 10 kilometers in the night.
Our initial plan was for Alex to reach border of Malaysia and take a train from there or arrange the car, and sort of I always lived with that thought in the logistics of the project, you know, because our deadline was very tight. It was 2 weeks from when he left Bangkok until Penang, and then when they reached the border, they're like, no, we're just gonna carry on, you know, our car across the border, and we're just gonna ride to Penang. So that was a crazy, inspiring, stressful, fun journey.
Yeah, fun, yeah.
Yeah, I think I owe you one. I'm gonna have to cycle back to Bangkok next.
Yeah, lucky I met my friend on the way, my own friend on the way by accidentally. And he traveling to Malaysia for work many times, and he know people how to make a paperwork to get the car cross the border. So that's why we don't call you at the border. Actually, I'm planning to like let Taz and you and everyone met at the border, and let Taz cycling with us, you know, or you know, everyone gonna be on the trip in Malaysia. But yeah, the time's very tight, and that's why we keep going. Yeah, I'm quite enjoy Malaysian view, you know, small road, like in local area is small. In the land, it's like wow. You don't get it in Thailand. Yeah.
Fun fact, he crossed the border on the first day of Ramadan. We didn't really knew when the Ramadan is going to start. So they cycled the whole morning, and they reach a little town in the Lostan. They're like, okay, lunchtime.
Lunchtime. I look at the map and told my team, okay, let's see at the restaurant. We eat there. And then we go.
Closed.
What? Closed? All right, next one. 5 kilometers away, okay. Next one, close. And my friend, you know, like, hey man, how many kilometers left? we run out of water and everything. It's like, how many kilometers? When? And then finally we end up under the tree. I put my blanket on. Let's go. Let's lay down. We're taking a nap. Yeah, finally we found 7-Eleven, and then we have the drink, fill water. Yeah, we survive after half day, and they start open the restaurant. Maybe the first one I get the food 4 p.m. Yeah, all day long, but it's okay. It's okay.
Yeah, so crazy journey. I'm gonna probably let you ask a couple of questions if you guys have to sort of wrap this up a little bit. Yes, feel free to, you know, don't be shy. We both here. Alex is here. It's a rare situation, rare occasion, and very special occasion. I feel, yeah.
Location trip. Yeah.
Yes, Nicholas.
That's an incredible journey. What are your fears and your hopes for the landscape that you've gone through? This is such an incredible journey to document these landscapes. Having done this journey, what are your fears and your hopes for the landscape that you've traveled through?
You mean fear?
Nicholas is asking the fears and hopes for the future of the landscapes that you've seen and experienced.
I don't know. I just let it go and try to accept that. You know, that's it. That's why I keep painting before it's gone. That's one thing I can do as an artist, you know, and spend time. Yeah.
It ties in very well with Impressionism, you know, and I think the mission of artists is not necessarily to change, you know, the world around us. It's more to document and show, to capture, and Impressionism is a very right medium to do it. So to capture the landscape in the moment as we see it now. And I hear a lot. I'm not a big cyclist. I spent my childhood on a bicycle. I grew up in the village. We had no skateboards. So so I spent my childhood cycling. But all my cyclist friends, especially in the region, they always tell me, you know, they've been doing that for decades and decades, 20, 30, 40 years. They always remind me how much the scenery is changing every time that they pass by. You know, we have palm oil industry, they have reclamation projects, we have forestry, deforestation, wood pulp. all that stuff, farms going in, and so there's a lot of fear. There's a lot of fear for the fragility of the landscape.
Yeah, maybe deeply I can feel fear too. Yeah. It's happened to my hometown too. Yeah, my hometown in Chachoengsao, like near Bangkok. I remember when I grew up, when I was a small child, everything, the right field, the big landscape. And I remember one day I walked back from the school. I used to play we have a big tree, like the long, line with the big tree. I used to play there when I'm young. One day I back home and I can feel something gone in my eyes. Like I looked at, oh, it's gone, and the tree all gone, and that area become a motorway from Bangkok to Pattaya. So my house just next from near motorway. You can see my house from motorway actually. If you went to Thailand, if you go to Thailand, you see the big road. So the land filled with the big road. So I remember one day, darling, they built the road. I'm maybe 12 years old with bicycle, and I walk up to the road under construction. I can see it's like the way is so long. I don't know where they go. I'm young and a child. Say, where are they going? And I going back home to grab เงาะ เขาเรียกอะไรนะ rambutan. Yeah, I grabbed rambutan at my house. 2 of them put on my back and start cycling on that road until the night. I keep going far and finally I end up somewhere really open views, nothing there. And then I'm back home really late, and I think that by journey for me, and I can see my hometown get changed the landscape too. And right now it's become really crazy. Yeah, factory everywhere, traffic, it's like nothing the same after 30 years. It's not long. And I think that I see the thing changes in my hometown, my parents' home. And it's like I keep asking everyone, it's like, it's your hometown too? It's like, yeah, it's everywhere in the world, and it's made me want to continue do the idea with the capturing landscape too.
At the same time, we have these technologies that really developing rapidly in research, in medicine, in conservation, and economies as well. So hopefully, we'll manage to wait it off and save what's there until we have solutions for a little bit more sustainable existence as humans.
Yeah.
For now, I think it's important to bring these conversations up, talk about it, show it, paint it, create music in whatever ways we can to sort of make people not forget that the landscapes, they exist. More and more people living in the shopping malls right now. It's between your house, your job, and the shopping mall, that sort of closed cycle. So it's important to break your thoughts out of that sometimes, just spend some time outside.
Yeah. And I think the landscape painting can be more special when the time passes. Yeah. Let's say 100 years later in the future, when you come back and look at the landscape painting, it's like 100 years ago it looked like this. So I think it's more special.
Yeah. Any more questions?
This question is for both of you, Ernest and Alex. What inspired you to start your first painting, and what year was that? And where did you start the first painting? And the last question is, how do you inspire the young to participate in this street art moving forward?
First painting. First one. I remember.
You remember?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Maybe, I don't know, 2, 3 students here. I remember my auntie brought me a pencil, color pencil, and a coloring book. And it's like, wow, I don't have any toy, I'm a poor family.
Yeah.
And my auntie have some money, she brought me a coloring book. I'm like, wow. And then I draw on the book. It's like make a mess on the book. And it feels really difficult for me to control it, at the time, very small. And then I told myself, I saw the big tree and the fruit and the tree, you know, it's like a circle. And I told myself, okay, I try to fill in the circle line perfect. You know, I want to do it perfect, and I do it slow, 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 and finally, I was like, oh wow, it's perfect, just in the circle, and I was like, it makes me proud with myself that I can doing this, and I keep draw another one, another one, another one, and I think that's inspiring me to draw, because I can proud with myself I can doing this, and it keep me draw more things. I want to draw people, I want to draw my mom, you know, my dog, whatever, you know. After that, and after I keep drawing until now. I think can be a first painting. 1985 maybe. I don't know. I can't remember how old I am at the time, but before I went to the school. Yeah.
Well, on my end, I didn't have a fancy rich auntie with coloring books.
She's not rich, but she brought me a coloring book.
My dad, he was in an art school before I was born. He started selling cars after I was born. He needed to keep me alive, right? So then I was a kid. My dad used to draw my favorite cartoons in a notebook and just let me color it in. So that's my first memory of making art, and it never stopped there, really. Like, I don't know who said it, but there is this beautiful saying that we are all born artists. It's just the artists are the ones that don't stop, you know what I mean? It's, we grow out of it. So I think to inspire the next generation, it's not so much about inspiring the children to be artists. It's, I would like to inspire the parents to let the children be artists for as long as they can, you know? There's been like studies made of on the child geniuses. You know, they pick like 4 years old, and they pick 50 geniuses, like toddlers who would be considered genius for their age, and they track the development throughout the time. And you know, by the time they go to school, out of 50, maybe only 30 are still geniuses. But by the time they graduate from school, there was less than 2%. So basically 1 out of 50. So we teach children out of being smart and creative, to be honest, you know. So I think because me and Alex, we both have fairly humble childhood where we were exposed to a lot, you know, not necessarily the best schools, but we were allowed to live our life, you know, and allowed to be creative. We were not overly supervised back at that day, you know. I was stealing my dad's car paint and painting graffiti at the age of 12 and stuff. Never been scolded for it, you know. For me, I always remember, I don't remember the first painting I painted, but what inspired me the most, I had a painting, my dad's painting, in my living room. It was a landscape, a winter landscape of the forest. And I would always ask my parents about it, and they say, you know, oh, Dad painted it. And another thing we had in the same room was an easel with oil paints that I was not allowed to touch. It was oil paints, obviously. I was a child, and I was coloring books my entire childhood, dreaming of the time then I'll be allowed, big enough, you know, to use my dad's easel and to go outside and paint landscapes, you know. And that was sort of my biggest motivation of going to art school, you know, because I was told, you know, I need to learn, I need to train, I need to be an artist to use that easel and the oil paints, you know. So that was something that just, you know, I never saw my dad paint, but that presence of the paint in the room, the paintings, that sort of inspired me to dance and carry on and to learn. So yeah, I think it's the environment that we build for children. It's not the motivation of the children or creativity. Every child has creativity. If you give them a coloring book, they'll color it, you know. But you do need to give them a coloring book. Yeah. Anyone else? Any questions? Yes.
I was watching your video, which is great, about the journey, and you have lots of people stop, children, motorcyclists stopping by because you went by the road. What's their reaction to what you're doing?
The reaction with the people?
Yeah, and did you tell them why you were doing this journey, why you were painting a landscape? What did they
Don't ask much deep question. They're just hanging out.
Yeah.
Yeah, they just come. Hey, look at the. You see the kid in the video?
They're more interested about your hair rather than
Oh yeah.
your painting.
Yeah. Yeah. They just saw me painting. They just bring friend. Look, the boy painting, come. And they, hanging out because they're stranger in the area. I think I went to the spot that not too many tourists going, and all the child just so excited to have stranger come to the area and paint.
Yeah.
But before I paint, they don't care. They doesn't come and talk to me. But I'm start painting, they say, wow, them look excited to come and hang out. I think the painting make the activity to make people come and have a conversation with me.
That's another thing, beautiful thing about working outdoors. Whether it's a landscape or graffiti or street art murals or anything, the people who see your work become a participants of your work. They directly or not, they affect how the work is going to turn out and how you perceive the world. So I think that's the main difference from working outside and working in the studio. It's not about the light or materials. It's just those interactions that sort of inspire you to go further.
You connected with people, with local people, and also at the same time you get information from them. Yeah, they tell you the story with the area. I think for me, I'm talking with everyone. When I'm cycling, with painting wall. Hello, the car. I'm talking with them to make sure I'm safe. Actually, be kind, and people will treat you well. But not just like don't talk to anyone painting. It's not nice. People are like, hey, this guy, what doing? And I think that makes you connected with local, and I think it's more like memory too with the child. Yeah, with all the people, not only child. And you see another video, the guy stopped to see me painting on motorbike. I'm in a hurry. I'm sit on a big road. I don't want to be there for so long. The car passing by all the time. I'm with the helmet on, and the guy stopped. I say, painting? Yeah. The bridge. You see the bridge? Yeah, I see. Paint the bridge now. Okay, yes, coming. It's coming. And the tell is like, be careful, you're on the road, the big truck coming. I don't care, I'm control the area. I shoot them up. It's like, oh, right. Yeah, it's like you need to meet many random people and then you need to like deal with them. I think the same when you painting graffiti.
Yeah.
But I think impressionist, like landscape is more easy because you don't paint any one wall, so it's more safe. Yeah.
It's something about culture here as well. I don't know if it's a climate or like we don't get that in Europe where people just stop and hang out with you because they find whatever you do is interesting. My first mural I ever painted was a legal little wall near Love Lane, and I was just rushing there trying to hide early in the morning. And this guy just walking by, and he stopped, and like I feel him behind me just watching over my shoulders. I'm a little worried, is he there to steal my phone, or is he there, is it to report to police of the owner of the building? All these thoughts going through your head. And I turn around and he's just like, hi. And I'm like, okay. And he stood there for like about 2-3 hours. Just like, I'm like, what is your life? You were obviously going somewhere.
Put your wallet well. It's like, okay.
No, he was just generally interested, just stood there, not really talking or asking questions. He just watched me paint. It's sort of this La Paz culture that they call it. Yeah,
it's fun. We have a lot of experiences about painting outdoor, and become really, really memory.
All right, maybe another question if anyone has a last question. Anyone? No? Oh, here we go.
Alex, I find your character quite unique. Of course, both are artists. Can I ask what inspired you to create such a character?
You mean the character?
We have a question of asking the inspiration behind the character. I didn't bring it up on my end. I think it's been talked about a lot in all the videos and interviews of Alex. But for those who don't know, maybe it's a very interesting story as well. Maybe tell to people how did you come up with that character? When did it start? What inspired it?
Yeah, inspired from my daughter when she born in 2009. Yeah, before I paint graffiti, my name, and then I start to paint the face. That's why people call me Alex Face, because I paint the face coming out from the wall, many wall in Bangkok. And when I have a daughter, 2009, and I start painting a baby face on the wall, look curious something. So as a father, and when I have a child on my arm, I look at her and she making face like, I said, oh, I speak to her, I say, are you worried something? And they, I have an idea. She not worried, but I'm worried about her, and then become painting the child to represent the next generation who gonna look for future world. Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Alex. On that note.
Thank you. Enjoy the show.